57-acre parcel north of the conservation land. So it's quite an extensive piece of forest land out there. It's really a wonderful resource for the town, you know, and I think that you might consider some options for management. What I did in the forest stewardship plan, which is this document here, is to go through and document the forest according to species, size and age, condition, density, things like that. And what I came up with basically was information about the land, the use of the land, and its history. And I put together some recommendations according to the condition of the forest for you to consider for management. What I did in the forest stewardship plan was to go through, and this is a map that shows both the north, the part of the land that is to the north of Swan Pond Road, which this shows here. It's this upper piece here. And this part here is the southern part of Swan Pond Road, of the property south of Swan Pond Road. And what I did was to break the forest into 4 different forest stands according to species. Number 1, I don't know if you can see this map, is the WO type, which is white pine and oak primarily. It's about 50-50 pine and oak. It's a mature forest, probably in the area of 60 to 80 years old, mostly, and that's the most extensive stand on the property. The other stand to the north of Swan Pond Road is stand 2, which is white pine stand, and that piece of land, that stand was actually cut some in the 80s for firewood. There was I don't know if you remember, there was a fuel wood cutting program under the Town Forest Committee, and they did some selective cutting of firewood for residents to use on their own. And I believe that program is still going on, but it's dropped off quite a bit. And south of the Swan Pond Road is a white pine hardwood stand, number 3, which covers the lowland area. It runs into a wetland down here, and it's got a lot of very large trees, pines and different hardwood species on that stand. And then the 4th stand was the mixed oak stand, which is up on the hill. It's where the water tower is, up there on towards the higher part of the land. And that is primarily oak, but with a very dense young stand of pine growing up beneath the oak. It's not able to really develop fully. The pines are not, because it's such a dense oak overstory canopy. So those were the 4 stands that I broke the forest into. And you can see these are trails and roads. There's an extensive trail and road network through there, which is very nice for walking and access into the property. So that was how I broke the forest into. And what I found was, except for stand 2, where there had been firewood cut, and even in that stand, since it was such a long time ago, the forest has become very dense. There's just a lot of trees. It has never been thinned except for that one area. Just a lot of trees competing for limited, growing space, water, nutrients, and sunlight. And so what what I was seeing was a lot of trees in a weakened condition. That, you know, when you get trees that are struggling because they don't have enough growing space, they're more vulnerable to things like drought and windstorm, insects, and disease. So that was one thing I noticed, and that leads into some of the recommendations that I made in the plan. I just wanted to bring your attention. I don't know if anybody noticed in the Thursday's Globe, there was an article in the paper called "How the Mighty Are Falling," and what it is, in southeastern Mass, there are tens of thousands of oak trees that are dying as a result of it's been really 3 years of insect infestation: gypsy moth, forest tent caterpillar, and winter moth. The trees get weakened by the defoliation, and then what happens is the fungus comes in, and in this case it's shoestring root rot, and so they're losing many trees down there, and which is it's going to be very expensive for them to take those down. So that's what happens when trees get under stress. They're just less able to withstand things like that. So what I recommended in the plan is to carry out a thinning program in the forest, and that would that could be done in a couple of different ways. One is to continue the fuel wood cutting program, which has been active in the past, not so much recently, but with everybody looking for firewood, and it's very much in demand now with the price of oil so high, that's a tremendous resource, really, for residents to get a source of firewood, and also do some beneficial thinning of the forest at the same time. And I've recommended this to the Conservation Commission as well on their land. The other way to possibly carry out this thinning is through a commercial thinning, where you would have a commercial contractor come in and thin the forest using their equipment, and they would pay you for the wood that they remove, and I would recommend that kind of a thinning project in the area to the north of Swan Pond Road, because it's more accessible for that kind of an operation. So those were the two primary recommendations I had in the plan: the commercial thinning and also the fuel wood cutting program.
So the income estimate you've given us is based on a commercial company coming in and doing thinning?
Yes, exactly. That's what that would be. That was, I estimated that at well, you see on the summary, $6,000 to $8,000 for that kind of a project. And it's really, it's really an improvement of the forest. I think that's the way you have to look at it. It's not really going to make a lot of money, but it's getting some good forest management done and providing a little bit of income from the forest products that are harvested. So that was my primary recommendation. And over time, this would not just be a one-time thing. I think you have to look at it as managing the land over time, because it does take a long time for the forest to respond to a thinning project, and it's something that you want to continue on a periodic basis, to go in and selectively remove certain trees to help other trees grow better. And what you get after a while is a more diverse forest. You get trees of all different ages, rather than one, age class of trees, which this is in most cases. You'll get young trees, middle-aged trees, and older trees all growing together, which, if you do have a big hurricane or a storm, which, we could get, you haven't lost everything. You might lose the bigger trees, but these smaller trees would continue on. So it's really sort of an insurance policy to spread out the age classes of the trees and the species, in case you get a disease that hits one particular tree, or say the oaks, and you've got some pines that are ready to come along and come up and take over. So it's something that I think you really want to consider. The firewood cutting program, I recommended in the plan as doing on the south side of Swan Pond Road. But that might be more accessible to people that don't have, big equipment to get in and to do a little selective cutting of firewood for their own use. So that's something you might want to look into too.
Plan, and I'd also like to recognize Mr. Rowe is here, and if he'd like to ask some questions or join the conversation, because he brought this to us a little less than a year ago, and we really appreciate him bringing this to our attention. So I don't know if you wanted to make a few comments.
No, I've read over the report, and yes, Dana Rowe brought this to my attention about a year ago, and we've certainly moved forward with it. I think having stewardship of property is, I think, a vital thing to do. This is a very comprehensive study, and it would certainly be my recommendation to work with the town's conservation committee to begin moving forward with these recommendations.
Before I bring Mr. Rowe up, does the committee have any questions on this at this time? Dan, you want to?
Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but if we were to engage the services of a commercial enterprise, how do you know that they'll follow the plan in a careful fashion and not overcut?
Well, the way it's normally carried out is you would hire a forester like myself to go through and actually mark the individual trees that are going to be cut, and they are marked at chest height, and also with paint, and also on the root swell of the tree, so that that paint mark will be apparent when the tree is cut. So, and I would be there to supervise the project until it was completed.
There's two things that I don't know if it would be appropriate to do it now, but the town land and the conservation land, the access to that land would be best through the school land. And John now is working on the town land. The conservation land has been done. I'd like to see if we could coordinate the conservation of town land and school land all together, because they would have to ask your permission to go through your land, which is the ultimate access. The other thing is, I had mentioned to John quite a while ago, if in fact you do go forward with the program, that he mark some of the trees that are of lesser value to be taken out under the, if we can get the forest cutting program going again. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. I think there should be quite a bit of interest in it. And also, I'd like to see some of the money go back into the forestry, for maybe some equipment for pruning, tools, things like that the school could, have their students go up.
The process is we can take some of that money and offer scholarships maybe to students who might be thinking of going into this field, forestry or the lawn, whatever, but something related to this. I think, obviously it's not a huge amount of money, but it's enough to get something started, I think. And if there are any kids who are interested in going into the field, this is a great way to encourage them. And so I think that's another idea I'd like to throw out there for the proceeds. But again, Dana, thanks, you know, you brought this to our attention. We know